reason that I'm calling, and I've got the TV muted out because I don't want it to hum or anything, but the reason that I'm calling is that you take a two-party system like we have, and someone who's a blue-collar worker in our country like myself with 4 children, and we look and we listen and we see that you're a socialist. We don't understand what a socialist is. I don't have time to sit down and read Wall Street or anything else that's going to tell me about that. I'm too busy working with 2 jobs. Could you tell me, is it feasible the 3-party system could work in this nation, that a Jesse Jackson could be elected with his kind of outreach to the people that are working, that are in need, yet he's black and they know he's black, but they won't bring that issue out?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Let me talk a little bit about Jackson. What Jackson has going against them is not primarily, in my view, is not primarily that he's black. I mean, there are some people who won't vote for somebody who's black, and that's that. That's a minority. And I think one of the changes, you know, if people think I'm dumping on the United States, let me say that one of the nice changes that has taken place in the last 20 or 30 years is that, in fact, a person like Jesse Jackson can run for president of the United States and be taken seriously. Who would have thought of that 20 years ago, a black person running? I think the issue is not a racial issue. I think it's a class issue. Okay? I think if you had a conservative black person, somebody, say, like a Mayor Good of Philadelphia, running, I think the business community would put money into his campaign and would say, boy, it's time for a black president. The real issue is not whether you're black or white, whether you're a woman or a man. In my view, a woman could be elected president of the United States. The real issue is, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of workers and poor people, or are you on the side of big money and the corporations? Jackson is on the side of poor people and working people. You know, interestingly enough, recently, we've celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday, and we had a ceremony, a very lovely program in Burlington, Vermont, as I'm sure people did all over the country. And I want those people who are as old as I am to remember Martin Luther King Jr.'s last years. Everybody today, all the editorial papers say, oh, wasn't Martin Luther King a great guy? He fought for racial justice, a great hero. Remember that a year before King died, when King spoke out against the war in Vietnam, and when King said we need billions of dollars to provide decent jobs, not only for black people, but for white people. And when King said, I am going to organize a poor people's march to go to Washington, of blacks and whites and yellows, but of poor people to demand justice. Suddenly, when Martin Luther King began talking that language and taking on the system, my goodness, the FBI was investigating him and tapping his phone. The President of the United States wasn't talking to him. The real issue in this country is class. And the ruling class and the big money people do not want to see workers wake up. They don't want to see workers voting. Now, this gentleman calls up, and the point that he makes is so poignant. He would like to learn about socialism. He would like to see if there's an alternative to the Democratic and Republican parties. Unfortunately, he's not going to see that on CBS or NBC and ABC. He's not going to hear about the possibility of an alternative to capitalism. He's not even going to learn about what goes on in Canada in terms of a national health care system, or the fact that they're now proposing, and I'm not, Canada is no utopia, you know, I don't want to suggest that. He's not going to learn much about the housing programs in Sweden or in Scandinavia, okay, because the system wants to keep us dumb and ignorant.